Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent over a really fascinating mix of news from, the global TV, film, and media scene lately.
Yeah, it's quite a collection.
We're looking at, well, everything. Production stuff, big industry shifts, some creative projects that sound really intriguing.
Hmm.
So our plan today is basically to pull out the most interesting bits, the key insights, and, give everyone a clear picture of what's happening in entertainment right now.
Absolutely. And what's great about this range of material is how broad it is. It gives us this full view, really. When you start digging in, you see these connections popping up.
Okay, let's just jump in then because, yeah, there's a lot here. You flagged Soulsucker, this horror comedy coming from Bat Hen Sabag,
Hmm?
an Israeli creator. What stood out about that one for you?
Well, what's interesting is how it's using specific cultural background. Sabag's bringing in elements from her Romanian gypsy heritage,
Oh,
which feels like, maybe a step beyond the usual supernatural stuff.
right.
It focuses on generational curses in a family, especially mother-daughter stuff. But with dark humor, it sounds like it could be a really unique take.
Right.
And Daphne 11 from Euphoria being involved. That suggests some potentially complex characters alongside the scares.
Definitely sounds promising. And sticking with production, we got an update on Alex Garland's Warfare, set in Iraq but filmed entirely in the UK. That seems logistical, maybe?
Well, yeah, the practical side of filming in a controlled space is definitely part of it, but it also allows for a really specific kind of focus.
Ah.
By recreating it in the UK, Garland probably gets more control over the whole atmosphere. He can really dig into the psychological side of the conflict, which seems key, rather than just the huge scale of a real place.
Right.
Plus, Kit Connor mentioned the military training they did, so they're clearly aiming for authenticity in that experience.
Okay. Now, a completely different direction. Netflix seems to be going for lighter stuff. Nobody wants, this is one example. Their comedy head said audiences want more uplifting shows. Is that just Netflix looking at data or is it maybe a wider trend?
It could well be a broader feeling, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
after years of really dark, complex dramas, maybe people are just ready for more, escapism, feel-good stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
It's also probably strategic for Netflix in this crazy competitive market. Offering more comedy, a wider range, helps them appeal to, like everyone, keep subscribers who might want something lighter after binging something intense.
Right, right. And The White Lotus is season 3 is also getting buzz. Heading to Asia, exploring Buddhist themes this time. It's amazing how that show just keeps hitting
Right.
critically and culturally while tackling some pretty sharp commentary.
Oh, totally. The genius of White Lotus is how it dissects people in these really rich, kind of unsettling settings.
Hmm.
Moving it to Asia, bringing in Buddhist ideas, it just gives Mike White a new angle to explore wealth, privilege, the human condition. The fact that people get so excited for each season just shows its impact. Audiences trust it.
Okay, here's something that feels like a real shift. The Television Critics Association canceled its summer 2025 press tour. That feels significant. In terms of how the industry and press talk to each other, what's your take?
Yeah, that raises some really big questions, doesn't it? About like media access, how networks and streamers are going to engage with critics going forward.
Yeah.
The TCA mentioned money pressures, changing industry models. It suggests they're rethinking the whole traditional press tour thing.
Right.
It'll be fascinating to see what pops up instead. More direct-to-consumer stuff, or maybe new digital ways for talent and press to connect. It could really change the power dynamic there.
And speaking of changes, Amazon's TV side seems to be shaking up a bit with Jennifer Salk moving on. Reports mention some internal friction, a complex structure. How could that kind of exec change affect their actual content?
Well, whenever you have a big leadership change like that, it almost always leads to some kind of reevaluation.
Hmm.
The new setup under Vernon Sanders could mean shifts in what projects get the green light, who they partner with creatively, maybe even the overall tone of their shows. The mention of friction suggests that this might be a moment of like real strategic realignment for Amazon MGM Studios TV.
We're also seeing major consolidation in Europe. Media for Europe bidding for Pro7 Sat Pot 1, ITV Studios buying a majority stake in Runage Pictures. This trend of companies merging seems to be picking up speed. What's the driver there?
If you look at the big picture, yeah, the massive pressure from global streamers is really squeezing traditional European broadcasters.
Right.
So consolidation looks like a way to get bigger, pool resources for making shows, for tech, distribution, and buying successful producers like Moonage Pictures. That boosts their creative firepower so they can compete better for talent and ideas in this fast-changing market.
Okay. And on a more maybe creator-friendly note, Disney Plus is actively asking for pitches from indie producers for unscripted stuff. Not just Europe, but like everywhere. That feels like it could open doors for different voices.
Yeah, what's notable is that direct outreach to the indie world.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests Disney Plus is willing to look beyond the usual big studios for fresh ideas in unscripted. It could be a huge opportunity for smaller companies, individual creators, to get seen by a major platform. Might diversify the kind of unscripted shows we get.
It's also getting super clear that YouTube is like essential for traditional broadcasters now. ITV uploading tons of their shows there. Why is that so important for them today?
It really just shows how viewing habits have changed, right? Especially younger people who might not even watch regular TV. YouTube gives broadcasters this enormous potential audience, connects them with viewers where they already are. Putting content there builds brand awareness, brings in ad money, and maybe, just maybe, drives people back to their own streaming service for exclusives or catch-up. It's just adapting, going where the eyeballs are.
Roy Ackerman's point about theatrical docs finding a home on linear TV is interesting too. Sounds like it's about being flexible, format-wise, budget-wise, just to get those stories out there.
Exactly. A cinema release is great for prestige, for reviews, but linear TV, that gets you into millions of homes.
Huge reach.
Right. So if filmmakers and broadcasters can be adaptable on running times, budgets, whatever, these important documentaries can still find a massive audience, spark conversations, raise awareness.
We also got some cool insights from the creative side. Seth Rogen and the studio cast talking about real Hollywood stuff influencing their satire. Bong Joon-ho reflecting on his career. Hearing directly from creators is always so valuable.
Oh, definitely. Those behind-the-scenes views are so illuminating. Understanding the inspiration, the process behind something like the studio, or the journey of a director like Bong Joon-ho, it adds context. Helps you appreciate the final thing more. Good learning for anyone interested in making stuff, too.
There's also been a ton of executive appointments. Eureka Productions, Saga Film, the MPA, EFA. Lots of musical chairs at the top.
Yeah, those leadership changes often signal shifts in strategy, where these organizations are heading. New execs bring their own ideas, their own experience. That can eventually influence the kinds of projects that get made, how the industry itself evolves. Watching those appointments can give clues about future trends.
The festival circuit's buzzing, too. New directors, new films showing off new talent. Seth Meyers opening ATX TV Fest. Sylvia Chang getting honored at Udine. These events are so key for finding and celebrating different voices.
Absolutely. Festivals are like crucial ecosystems. They platform new work, connect filmmakers with distributors with audiences, celebrate the craft globally. Recognizing new and established talent is vital for keeping the industry growing and diverse.
And for Black Mirror fans, Charlie Brooker did a masterclass at Series Mania, even teased Season 7. That show just keeps nailing our tech anxieties, doesn't it?
Black Mirror's become such a cultural thing, hasn't it? For its, often unsettling takes on tech's impact. Any insight from Brooker himself, especially a peek at a new season, people jump on that. It's a window into the show's ongoing commentary on our, increasingly digital world.
Okay, let's hit development news. Lots going on there. Donnie Yen directing a John Wick spinoff. David Fincher directing a Tarantino-written follow-up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Dwayne Johnson co-writing a true crime book. And the Michael Jackson biopic potentially split in two.
Wow, yeah. That level of activity just highlights the constant search for compelling stories and recognizable IP.
Totally.
Expanding franchises like John Wick. Reuniting successful pairs like Fincher and Tarantino. Tapping into true crime with a big star. It's all about grabbing attention. And splitting the MJ biopic. That shows the challenge of fitting a complex life into one film, but also maybe thinking about audience engagement, the sheer amount of story there.
We also saw some interesting indie stuff moving ahead. Kevin Cates' holiday comedy and Channel 5 doing that really nostalgic 1970s programming slate. That retro thing keeps popping up.
Nostalgia is powerful, isn't it? Connects with people, offers comfort, familiarity.
Yeah.
Channel 5 focusing specifically on 70s Britain suggests a really targeted play for people who remember it, but maybe also introducing it to younger viewers who find it, retro cool.
And for Killing Eve fans, Honey is officially confirmed as the prequel about young Carolyn Martins. Exciting for anyone who loved Fiona Shaw's performance.
Yeah, prequels give you that chance to dig into backstories, right?
Yeah.
Explore the origins of characters you already love. Honey could give us real insight into what made Carolyn Martins, and that whole spy world she lives in.
Looking globally, the EBU and other broadcasters are co-producing a French animated series, My Life is a Manga. That kind of international partnership seems more and more common.
Co-productions are definitely a big thing. It's a way to share the cost, the creative load, but also aim for broader international appeal from the start.
Makes sense.
A French animation with a Japanese theme made across Europe. They could hit different cultural notes, reach a wider audience globally.
Star Trek fans got a little tease for Strange New World Season 3, hinting at a retro look, new mysteries. Sounds like they're leaning into that classic original series vibe.
Strange New Worlds has done a great job tapping into that TOS nostalgia while still being its own thing.
Yeah, it really has.
The teaser suggests more of that, mixing the familiar with fresh stories, character stuff. It seems to be working really well for old fans and new ones.
Yeah. Apple TV Plus is adding more comedy with The Husbands, starring Juno Temple. Intriguing premise on that one. And South Park, getting ready for season 27. That's just incredible longevity.
The Husband sounds like it could be a really interesting look at relationships, identity, and Juno Temple's great. That's for South Park. 27 seasons. It just shows its amazing ability to keep satirizing everything, staying relevant after all this time with that signature humor.
We also had casting for Runner and loads of acquisitions. Angel Studios, Al Jazeera English, Netflix, Sohu Video, DAZN, all making moves. Plus, first look deals for Paul Feig, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Always tells you who platforms are betting on.
Right. Those acquisitions and first look deals, that's the engine, isn't it? The content pipeline.
Yeah.
Platforms are always looking to bulk up their libraries, lock in relationships with talent, establish creators, in-demand people to guarantee a flow of good stuff for subscribers.
And finally, BAFTA announced its 2025 UK scholarship program, super important for bringing up new talent.
Oh, absolutely. Investing in the next generation is crucial for film, games, TV. BAFTA's program gives vital support, financial and professional, to people starting out. Helps make the industry more diverse, more vibrant.
Okay, so wrapping up, we've covered a ton today. From like the interesting mix in Soulsucker with its Romanian folklore roots to the huge strategic moves and consolidation in Europe's TV market trying to deal with the streamers.
Yeah, and we saw how traditional broadcasters are cleverly using platforms like YouTube ITV, putting so much content up there is a prime example just to reach people differently. And Disney Plus open call for indie pitches. That could signal a real shift in how streamers find content, opening things up for more creators.
Right, and that whole discussion about theatrical docs making their way onto linear TV, it just highlights how adaptable everyone needs to be to get important stories seen.
Exactly. It feels like all these separate news items, they actually build this bigger picture, don't they?
Yeah.
Of an industry just constantly changing, adapting to tech, to audience habits, to competition.
So, thinking about all this growing global connection in making and sharing content, Israeli creators using Romanian roots, French animation co-produced across Europe, Korean short dramas aimed at the U.S., how might that keep blurring the lines between local and international media in the future? And what impact could that have on the kinds of stories we actually see and the cultural identities reflected on screen? It's definitely something interesting to think about.
A really fascinating question to leave things on.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.